Administrator Zeldin, I understand why the agency terminated all environmental justice grants to align with President Trump's executive order. I recognize those, in many cases, were spurious. But as often happens when you do this, there's some things in there that you think, wait a minute, that was pretty good. And so in my district, we had some flood mitigation, and these are not huge dollars, $50,000 in flood mitigation planning for the town of Clinchco, $50,000 in engineering for a former bank building demolition. The building is going to collapse into the road, and it's a problem. And Riverwalk design in the town of Pound, and $70,000 demolition of a building in Pennington Gap, which flooded again in February. All of these are issues that are significant, and I don't know what they did to be put into an environmental justice. This is just something right to do, and I'm just asking you if you would be willing to help us work to see if we can't find some other ways to take care of some of those important projects that actually are meritorious.
Love to work with you, Chairman. Have my team work with yours, and the same message goes to other members of this committee. There are some cases of grants where the entire grant had major issues, and there are other grants where there were smaller issues, and there's appropriated funding that is going to continue to go out the door. We're having this conversation in the middle of a fiscal year. So while we are going from one administration to the next, we might go from one administration's priorities to the current administration's priorities. I think, have plenty of opportunities to be able to work together to get this funding out responsibly.
All right. Now I'm going to turn to the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund awards. I know that that's all tied up in litigation, but it's interesting to me, and I talked about it last week as well. One of the awardees is technically headquartered in my district in Southwest Virginia, actually in Christiansburg, the Appalachian Community Capital. And I understand it's a bank and a financial institution and it's a pass-through. The problem is that this organization received underscore $500 million. Previously, in 2023, their entire budget was $4.3 million, of which 2.8 was from a federal grant. In 2024, they suddenly received $500 million. Now, when I found out about this, and I went and looked at their legal address, where they're supposed to be headquartered in Christiansburg, Virginia, I went up to the building. It was after hours. There's no sign. There is a financial institution there, but it's not the Appalachian Community Capital. Now, whether they have a person assigned in there, whether or not they have a cubicle, I don't know. Not saying they don't, not saying they're not functioning out of that building, but there's no indication to the public that this institution, which received $500 million to hand out from the EPA, is doing anything there. Now, again, they very well could have a cubicle inside. They could have somebody in there working, but the sign on the door was for a different financial institution. The CEO has an address in Washington, D.C. So if we're trying to get these monies out, even if you accept that they're trying to get these monies out into the various communities, it raises all kinds of questions in my mind. I'm assuming that raised questions in your mind as well. Am I correct? That type of thing.
Yes, Chairman, and to that point, it's important to point out Appalachian asked for $1 billion. And they ended up receiving $500 million, even though the year that they asked for the funding in 2023, they spent less than $4.5 million. One of many issues. And one more thing to point out, Chairman, a reviewer noted that Appalachian planned to use $215 million to finance 600 zero-emission vehicles and $105 million to finance 700 charging stations. This is $358,333 per EV vehicle, $150,000 per charging station. So it's important to get into the weeds and understand, and I think the example that you brought up is one of many fantastic ones to talk about.
Well, and I'd love to know where the charging stations are if they exist.